Thanks for tuning in to CrushTheStreet.com. We're here with Fabian4Liberty, a political activist. His YouTube channel is Fabian4Liberty. Fabian, what motivated you to become an activist?
What motivated me to become an activist was definitely watching the direction the Republic's headed, the growing tyranny just on all levels, the banking cartels that have really hijacked our financial system. So I would say it after the 2008 crash, although I've been involved in politics and been a student of history my whole life. I'd say after the 2008 crash is when things, I felt, at least on my level as individuals, we all needed to wake up, speak out, and do what we all can as individuals.
So after the 2008 crash, did you start speaking out? Did you go look up books to read to educate yourself? What was your immediate reaction?
Yeah, well, I should say that even before the 2008 crash, I was involved heavily in the 2007 in the Ron Paul campaign when he ran for president in 2008, and I did a lot of work for him in 2007. And even back then, finding out just about how the collusion between the big Wall Street banks and the Federal Reserve, and so for me it was kind of like an easy progression, because the more you just look into this, even on the surface level, how quick you see, well, it's not just the president running things or Congress, it's really the Wall Street banks that basically run everything from our political system to our financial system. And so it was really easy to make that step, because if you believe in truth, if you believe in defending the Republic, you quickly take the steps in that direction, because you find out there's really no other conclusion.
Now, Ron Paul, he's like basically the hero of the Liberty movement. In the 2008 election, he was kind of shunned. He was under the Republican name just so he could be in the debates there, or else he would have been not even in the debates if he ran as a libertarian, which he really is. Now in the 2012 election, on the primaries, he's people, I think if the mainstream media admits, he's getting 3 times as many votes as he did 4 years ago. But there's still, he has an overwhelming support, and there's been news stories, local or on the internet, of voter fraud. What do you think? Are these true? Have you researched it?
Yeah, there's no question there's voter fraud with Ron Paul. It's proven. In Maine, for example, where it's clear he won, they basically said, well, we're not going to allow all the precincts to vote. We're not going to count the votes. And in Iowa, even I don't like Romney or Santorum at all, but Santorum, who they claim won, well, they didn't announce that till about a month later, when it was just an after-the-fact thing. But dozens of trucks, or at least half a dozen trucks of votes in Iowa weren't counted. They came from Ron Paul precincts that were heavy Ron Paul supporters. So it's important to understand that because the powers that be, the Wall Street mega banks, the Federal Reserve, the central banks run both parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, they can't allow for someone like Ron Paul, who is then the Fed guy, they can't allow him to win an election or to have basically show how much support he really gets. He goes to any auditorium in college campuses, it gets filled out to the max. They need to keep that suppressed from the people, because the more the people are dumbed down, the less they know about the Fed, the less they know about the issues that Ron Paul touches on every time he opens his mouth, the more people wake up and realize, hey, we have to do something. So this time around with the Ron Paul campaign, it's different because people are awake, or more people are awake, and so that's why you're seeing him get a little bit more momentum, get more. They talk about him more in the media, but they still talk about him in a way that kind of discredits him, or they make him try to sound crazy, because they're afraid of his message, quite frankly, and they're afraid of his popularity in the 30 and younger crowd as well, both Democrats and Republicans.
Now, us in the Liberty movement know that, and most of his appeal is because he is a strict constitutionalist. We know he might be robbed of this election. Do you know anyone else with any chance of gaining the presidency that's a strict constitutionalist in 2012 or 2016?
No, there's no. There's probably it's gonna need to take a complete financial catastrophe, financial collapse, for enough people to wake up and realize we have to take another direction here. And the question is, what direction do we take? Will it be one that ascends into total tyranny, where people just are willingly giving all their power over to government? I am afraid that might be the outcome. Or will the other outcome be, let's try to go down the path of saving the republic and enforcing the Bill of Rights and the Constitution? That's why I do my videos and what I'm championing. But there's really no one out there like Ron Paul, because the majority of politicians, for the exception of his son, and maybe a few others, because all of them have been bought and paid for by the moneyed interests at the Fed, and it's on both sides. I mean, you look at Obama as really the perfect example. There is no difference between the Bush and Obama policies, other than Obama has put them on hyperspeed, but they in essence believe and do the same thing, and it's because they serve their corporate and financial interests. And until we break that back, and we have we put bankers on trial. We have like a Nuremberg trial, if you will, for the Wall Street bankers, for these corporate elites. Nothing will change. And unfortunately, I think the only way we'll get to that is by having some kind of real crisis that happens in this country.
All right, so across the street, we caught you here in L.A. and it was a little hard getting the interview for you. Seem busy. Like you obviously have more plans. You're expanding what you're doing. What are your plans exactly to expand your message to regain Americans' liberties that we've lost over the last few decades?
Well, I will keep doing my show. I will keep creating content and covering the stories that are media news and events that are taking place. I'm also have joined up with Maker Studios to be featured on their Polypop channel, which will cover politics, current events, and the coming election. So I'm happy about that. People like Steven Crowder, Lee Doran, they're on that channel. So we feel like this community of channels coming together will help getting the message out there. So it'll be a mix. There'll be some liberals, people from the left, people from the right. I don't really believe in that right-left paradigm, but if that's how it's relayed, then so be it. It's just a question of getting people awakened to it and watching and listening and opening their minds to this message.
Now, who do you regularly follow or watch on YouTube?
Who do I regularly follow on YouTube? Definitely, I watch Vision Victory stuff. I like Man of Truth, has put some good content out. Christopher Green from Green Wave TV has some good content. There's so many people that I've been watching for a while that are just fantastic. I think it's just great that anybody. This is something that I tell people to do all the time. That anybody that is just passionate about any subject matter, it could be gold and silver, it could be prepping, it could be economics, can get a flip cam or get an iPhone and do their own content and upload it and begin to get an audience. I think that's one thing, or write a blog, but that's how it started for me. I mean, I was watching videos on YouTube a couple years back, and I said, I'm just as passionate about this. Why don't I start talking about it? And for me, luckily, it's been well received and it's worked out well. But I think it's just another outlet that all of us can just do our part in the fight for the republic.
Now, lately you've had the videos regarding Andrew Breitbart's death, talking about that. How long did you follow Andrew Breitbart?
I followed Andrew Breitbart for a while. I have no doubt that I think he was murdered. Because he was getting behind he was exposing, and again, this isn't about buying into the right-left paradigm. I don't buy into that at all, but it is exposing the fact that the moneyed interests, the Wall Street bankers, the Fed, have financed radical revolutionaries in this country for years, particularly the left-wing, the left-wing revolutionaries. They funded the Bolsheviks and all of that. I think Obama plays a big part of that. Breitbart, I think, was beginning to dig too deep into the lost years of Obama. I mean, we have none of his high school or college records at Occidental or Harvard. So I think he began to really worry the Obama administration, or worry the powers above Obama, and I think he was killed for it. So that story to me, I mean, those series of videos that I did got close to 100,000 views or something like, or 80,000 views, a very short period of time. because people were not believing, and this is to a larger extent what happens with everything in the news. They weren't believing what they were hearing on the mainstream media. The mainstream media constantly lies to people. And so to see those videos grow in viewing so big, and to see just YouTube get so big when it comes to the liberty movement is to me a real good sign that things are beginning to turn, albeit slowly. They are turning somewhat because people are rejecting the mainstream media, corporate media's message, and they're looking for truth.
Do you see Obama being reelected if we're still in the current path where it looks like Romney or Santorum will get the Republican nomination?
I think it really doesn't matter. I think it just depends what I don't think it matters for direction of the country, because I don't think Romney is really like Obama. You know, a few days ago, Santorum was, he came under a lot of fire, and I don't like Santorum, but he came under a lot of fire by the GOP because Santorum said, well, Romney's like Obama. He should have stuck to that point because he really is. I mean, they both support the Wall Street banks. They both support single-payer healthcare systems. They both support the military-industrial complex. There's no difference. So it's a question of, do they want to bring Romney in for the austerity, or do they want to just put the collapse on hyperspeed with Obama, which I think after the election, you're starting to hear this false narrative that the economy's turning around, things are getting better. None of it's true. It's all been done by artificial money creation, the pumping of the Fed, and basically manipulating markets. So it's just a question of how long they can keep the manipulation going before the dollar loses its world reserve currency, and other countries, America's creditors, begin to reject this system, this global financial system we have right now. So my personal belief is Obama will win a re-election. He has way more money than Romney, and I think that they'll probably have some kind of manufactured crisis that allows Obama to pose maybe as a savior to win that election. But you never know. I mean, so many things can happen, and the fact is that I think the globalists and the elites specifically are getting very desperate in the actions that they're taking. One of them is a perfect example of this is segregated accounts at MF Global literally being hijacked. I mean, they went in and they took the money from the segregated accounts. So I think that's a sign that they're getting more brazen and more desperate. And really, you could really expect the unexpected is what I would say.
Now, we've talked about politics, and in your last answer, you touched on the economy and the economic collapse that a lot of us see is inevitable. What do you see as the breaking point for the average American that would really collapse our economy? Is it a $5 gallon gas that's going to really cause the collapse? Yeah,
well, $5 gallon gas is almost here in California. I mean, in Florida, it's $3.80 and people are going crazy. Here, it's like $4.50, $4.70, and it's $5 in some other places already. I think definitely food inflation. I mean, there's a direct correlation between people's income and what they pay for food and necessities. And once it reaches into that 40% threshold, I think it is, or over 35% threshold, they've actually studied this, and they've gone back to look at Egypt, to look at Tunisia, to look at other countries where a revolution has taken place. And I mean, you can go back to the French Revolution. You had prices of flour to make bread, I mean, doubled and tripled, and people had enough. And a bunch of women went and they stormed the Palace of Versailles. So I think that it'll definitely be food inflation. People won't know why. They won't make the link to the Fed. And that's unfortunate, because then they'll be told that, it's the gold bugs that are making the dollar weak and prices go up, or, they'll make stuff up. But food inflation is what will get people out into the streets, I think. But it could also be, like an Archduke Ferdinand moment that gets people out in the street, like this Trayvon Martin thing. The media is blowing this up, making it into something that it really isn't. And that could lead to something much bigger. So there's a lot of different events that could take place. I think the for sure event, though, is inflation. We know that prices keep going up. People can't feed their families. They're going to go out in the street, right? I mean, this is a long history that proves this.
Now, Crystal Street subscribers definitely believe in buying gold and silver to protect against the inflation. We believe there's going to be great inflation.
Yeah.
You've made some predictions in the past about gold and silver. What do you see, let's say, this year or within a year, gold and silver with the current state of economics and politics?
Definitely gold, silver is being manipulated. Gold is going to go over 2,000 and silver will go, I think, over 100. I have no doubt about that. What's important to know is that there's massive manipulation taking place, because if gold breaks out of 2,000 or 2,500, it's a direct indication of people are losing confidence in the Fed, they're losing confidence in the dollar. So they can't allow that to happen, so they manipulate it, they sell a lot of gold that they don't even own into the market to suppress the prices and keep it down. They do it with silver as well. Silver is one of the number 2 most used industrial metal. It's used in everything from these cameras, cell phones, computers. So if you want to preserve wealth, it's what people have done for the last 5,000 years. They put it into gold and silver. It's what you need to continue to do. And I have no doubt that gold and silver will continue to go up. Don't trust or believe in the paper prices that you see on a daily basis. Those are highly manipulated. In fact, if you go try to buy silver today for $32, it's probably really going to cost you $35, $36. I think it's worth much more than that. Just if you talk about the gold-silver ratio that's been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years. So it's really the only way to protect your wealth, or to store wealth, is by gold and silver. And I suggest everybody read into it, look into it, study it, and then make your decision, because only you can make that decision. But you know, that's I think a very important decision to make.
Is there anything else you want to share with Crush the Street?
Yeah, well, I want to thank you for the opportunity to you know, share my message with you. And I think that most people that are watching this video, I think, have almost responsibility, because we're definitely in the minority that understand where this economy is going, where this country is going. When we see bills like the ND, you know, the National Defense Authorization, when we see the martial law bill that Obama is passing, or when we see the buildup in war with Iran, I mean, all these issues, right? We have a responsibility to share it with our friends and family, share it with our neighbors, do what we can to make sure everyone's watching videos on Crush the Street, or what, you know, your YouTube channel, whatever it may be, because when it goes down, right, when the collapse does happen, or when the tanks are rolling in the street, people will then be desperate and begging for answers then. It'll be too late then. So the question is, let's get them the answers now, because I do think everybody realizes something's not right. They don't need to know about monetary policy. They don't need to know really about anything other than in their gut. They know that, hey, you know, things don't feel right. They're telling me the economy is getting better, but I don't see it happening. Prices are going up for everything. So I think it's you know, 5 years ago it would have been much harder. Now I think you know, it gets easier by day to share this information with people. I think they're much more receptive to it.
All right, well, Fabian, thanks for coming out, and we hope to see you and talk more in the future. Thank you.
Great. Thanks.
For more unconventional ideas, please visit crushthestreet.com.